Okay, so this is Friday night. I think it is October the 15th. And the weather, although it's springtime and the days have been reasonably warm, of course, I've mentioned this matrix God and its controlling force, which also controls the weather to a large extent. See how that bush there is starting to grow up? That is a cold wind coming down here. So, all I'm trying to point out with the climate and the weather is that from a spiritual human standpoint, even the body temperature affects how you feel. It's a small element in comparison with everything else, because I would expect to deal with weather and temperature if I was in a natural world. That would be just normal. Even though, of course, we're not really in a natural world because everything is controlled and always has been, but we just didn't know it. But all I'm saying is that, like, the days have... I'm on the night shift now, as you can see. Well, you may or may not realise that, but I'm on the night shift. So that means that, I'm trying to sleep a bit of the day. And of course, then they will bring noise to try to keep you awake. But it's actually been warm in the daytime. So I thought, oh, it's springtime now. Or heading, because actually the nights, when you get into the Australian or Sydney summers, the night time, if you are walking around or going out, is actually the most comfortable, because the temperature can get quite hot and it can be quite humid. But what I'm saying is that, like last night wasn't too bad because we had a lot of rain, so it made it more, even though it was night time, the temperature wasn't too bad. But tonight it's got chilly again, because I've actually got like winter jackets on here, and yet, like I say, it's the middle of October, so it shouldn't be this cold really. I'm not sure what the actual temperature is, but I'm rambling on here doing the weather report. I'm so sorry. And I'm not watching what I'm filming at all. Totally in my own space there for a second, not concentrating at all, because it is actually hard for me to hold the mobile at the moment. Because, your body gets weakened by all this technology around you. This technology that is going literally through the air and through the human body, and going through some of us more than others. I'm not quite sure why we're still here, really, to be honest with it. I think that might have more to do with a spiritual aspect rather than even the physical, but I don't know that, because certainly, and I think I've mentioned this before, these videos have become far too personal, considering that they go out like everywhere and anywhere for anyone that wants to listen. And sometimes I actually just think that I'm only talking to one person, which was exactly how I felt when I first made my first video. I actually sort of said, well, look, I don't think I will ever get a large amount of people to be listening to my videos, but if I just get one person on the other side of the world that understands the situation, that's something. And I didn't actually expect to get someone to understand, but I thought I might get the odd person, and then they would tune out because they'd think what is that person going on about, you know? Because it's not for everyone. Because not everyone is in the same situation. Just as I wouldn't have listened to any of the videos that I now listen to before the Matrix come down. No way would I have had the interest, because I was too busy trying to get on with my life and try to make my own personal life a bit better. And it just didn't interest me. If I wanted some sort of, escape, I would watch the movies, even though the movies are really a downloading of your consciousness. That's the right word. And I have to be fancy, but it is actually the correct word, because consciousness just means that everything that a human being is thinking and feeling, because they mainly want the combination, particularly from some people. I mean, I don't know what they download from other people. I only know how I think and what they take from me. But I would imagine that they would get different things from different people. But also, because they're trying to download the most human, those of us that have emotions that have been buried, that then they come to the surface, or even if they're just in a fantasy way of thinking. Because even myself, I'm surprised at how much of interest and how much they actually download and take from my mind. I cannot believe how much. But that also made me realise how special the human being really is, whereas we have been led to believe that we are non-existent in this reality. Of course, when you are targeted by the Matrix in a negative manner, as some of us are at this time, and have been probably all along, but we're aware of it now because it is extremely negative. There's no hidden element much to it. When that happens, even though you are conscious of how important the human being, the spiritual human being is, there's no glory to it, shall we say, because you're not allowed to actually be a human being in this reality. They're here to, this matrix that's around you, these beings that are around you, all this technology that is being pushed onto you in every way, every car that goes past, that's right, all the technologically controlled vehicle, just even while I'm sitting here, every person, there would be a few exceptions, but they would be probably not around me. Because even if there is another spiritual human being like us, say, my little son, I may not be in contact with that person. Or I may meet them and not recognise them to be another spiritual human being. And because I also am so suppressed, I won't come across as, I won't be in my natural element. So I won't also be projecting outward a positive vibe, as they say. And that is a joke when they talk about your vibes and all the rest of it. But essentially that means that other human beings can see and recognise that you are, a positive force in some way. That's the secret, is being able to recognise that. And that's not an easy thing to do, depending on how suppressed you are too, because it makes you negative, because they surround you with all these negative beings and all this negative energy. You surmise and assume that everything that you encounter is going to be negative. You're being conditioned to negativity, the opposite to what you would naturally want or need. It's not even what you want, it's actually a necessity. You wouldn't need quite so much if you weren't surrounded by, you actually need more positive energy now, and yet you're getting none. from no one and nothing. Apart from fantasy. Like, I actually have to fantasize and imagine, that there's a relationship, shall we say, with a positive human being that I actually don't have in my own physical reality. That becomes a necessity, a desperate want almost, but a necessity as well. I mean, if you allow yourself and think that that is a good thing, if you allow yourself, I'll have to lean back here because I'm not energetic enough to actually even hold this mobile. But there is a difference between wanting something and needing something. I'm going psychological here, and I am not in the position, I'm not a qualified psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything like it. But I have encountered experience with psychopathy all my life. And because I finally decided to analyse it, because of the matrix coming down, I had to think back over all the relationships. I was already doing that before the matrix come down. So there's 3 people crossing in front of me. Look, I'm not going to be diverted by the controlling people force that's around, okay? The androids that are controlled by technology and are using technology to surveil and patrol and try to control, really, through it. Because you're really trying to control someone. When you patrol someone, or stalk someone, whether it be a one-on-one or a whole suburb, doesn't matter. You are trying to control that person's feelings and how they think. You are trying to make them aware of your presence, and that's the whole purpose. The Matrix God and its minions and its disciples, which are, the android technical beings that populate, Leichhardt and Sydney and the world. But I only speak on my own suburb because I don't presume to talk of the world. Of course, I know that this is happening in other parts of the world. I've had discussions with the English one, and, it's the same situation over in London town. It would be definitely the same in America in parts, because America has a large population, and its population, there would be definitely people amongst those that are of high intelligence at the very least, so therefore they would be targeted. I would just assume that. I know I favour some places, and also this is true of other countries that I am not familiar with. But, you can have more humanity in some areas than others, particularly where there is a high population. But, that may or may not be relative. I don't know those things. But either way, I've gone off the track here, having trouble holding the mobile. Where was I? Oh. Where was I? Totally lost my train of thought. If only I could just keep. But you see, I try to be personal, but at the same time, I try to bring in the matrix, and that's like two. Even though they're connected, because if you are personally connected to someone, then you are also connected to the matrix, because that person will definitely be watched by the matrix. Because human connection of any kind is definitely something that the matrix and its beings are trying to stop. They have to, because although they are a vast united force, to be reckoned with against a very small amount of human beings that, as I said before, as far as I can see, are largely separated and have great difficulty communicating for this reason. They have difficulties communicating for many reasons. Some of the reasons can even just be personal, which is strange, you would probably think. But, because we are a product of this matrix, all human beings, because you've been subjected to a lot of suppression from the day you're born, whether it just be the reality that your parents may be of the psychopathy that is largely narcissistic psychopath, which really means that you have no feelings for your offspring. You just see them as a piece of furniture, more or less, and that you are only a survival. You're basically only there for your own needs and your own survival. But and you don't actually care for the well-being of those that are in the world around you, and that includes those that are closest to you. But you may, at a superficial level, look after them for your own benefit, because they are your piece of furniture, they are your handbag, they are part of what keeps you, makes it look as though you have some place in this world, shall we say. That's how it essentially works, and I know because, I experienced that with people, all of my life, even though I was unaware. I just wondered why there will always seem to be something missing in the people that I dealt with, and even with family members. I wondered why they didn't seem to be normal, warm, loving kind of human beings. I knew that they didn't have that in them. Even my father used to say repeatedly, there's no such thing as love. When you're younger, you tend to think, oh, well, he says that because he's been in an unhappy marriage, because he's never found the right person. You never ever realise until you're very old, and they are very old or passed on, that that was actually a clear statement, that they weren't unloving or unfeeling about anyone because they didn't experience it, or they had picked the wrong person, which is the case of most real human beings, where they just are always encountering the wrong people that are essentially coming into your life, but they're not coming into your life to in the same way that you think you're coming into theirs. You may even be aware of it. I mean, I was aware of it. I'll be personal here. I was aware in the past that most of the people, apart from family, because family is something that you don't pick, but you automatically are close to them just by nature of so-called, the reality that my mother used to always say, blood's thicker than water. But I wonder whether she meant her blood or someone else's. I often think that now, but at the time she used to say these things over and over again. But it is true that blood is thicker than water, but you may not really be connected to your own real blood. That's the problem. You might think you are, but you probably aren't. It's not likely that the matrix allows, positive relationships that are conducive to you having a positive, to where you can raise your frequency and vibration and have a positive outlook. The Matrix doesn't set up scenarios like that in your life. It does the opposite. It tries to convince you, puts you in a mindset where you will engage only with the psychopathy that is negative, or psychopathic, self-serving, negative, technical entities only. You won't realise they're technical at the time, but it wouldn't matter if they were. It wouldn't matter whether they were technical or just real people who were psychopaths, shall we say, or the narcissistic psychopath, which is mainly what people do. And if you want to be technical about it, I had to look that up before I made the video again, because I always tend to lump it all the same. But there is a difference. The narcissistic psychopath needs to get the negative energy off you and wants to personally limit and bring you down. That is their goal in life. That's what keeps them positive, keeps them going, the same way that positive relationship should keep a human being going. That taxi is just pulled up in front there and blinking its lights, won't come out, right in front, when it's actually illegal to even stop there because it's a bus zone. That's just to distract me from the video, and I shouldn't do it. I'm forgetting about the see that there's a fella moving there. See how they're getting out right in front there? Can you see that? Probably not coming now. See how they will stand there? Just for a bit. Just stop. That's not long. Some of them stand for longer, but see how they've run across in front too? Won't come out. They always have to stop in front of you. It looks all natural, as though they're just stopping, just happen to coincidentally need to stop in front of you. They will stage it so that everything looks authentic, but it isn't. It is all to where only you, as a targeted, suppressed human being, are aware of it. That's when the Matrix opens up and exposes itself and comes down on you and doesn't care that you know that you're surrounded. In fact, it wants you to know. From the day it does that, it wants you to know. But it hopes that it will put you so off balance that you will not be able to cope with it, which you can't. But it also hopes that you will think that you are out of your mind, because you do feel like that. But if you accept and know that it is a real system around you and that is the purpose of it, and you realise that at some point it takes a while, you will go through a period where you despair and actually think incredibly negative. In fact, even now you still can. The only thing that keeps you actually even continuing on most of the time is knowing that they are putting such an effort into making you submit and go down. If you didn't know that, you would submit and go down, because it seems like the easiest option, and it also seems hopeless. You can't get on top of it. So you just have to kind of endure it. And you do say, well, look, I don't think that, what are you enduring it for? Like, you wonder if there is going to be any reason to even endure it. Will it ever get better? And even that is where you have to come into some sort of spiritual thing. But I don't know. Most of the time I myself just say to myself, I really do not know. But because I don't know, then I shouldn't make a decision. You can't make decisions if you don't know. But not knowing also is an unpleasant place to be. It's unpleasant to not be 100% sure, to not be able to see what you should be able to see. It's, in other words, to know that everything will be okay. It never feels as though it is going to be okay, but you have to. But even if it's not going to be okay, you still have to stick with what you think about it. Stick with. You're almost forced to anyway. I mean, it's not like you could ever endorse this technical reality. That would be unlivable anyway. So I don't find that I have a choice, but it is still awful because you're stuck in the centre of saying, well, I don't see any positive, real, natural human options in this reality now for me. But at the same time, you're like, I can't be part of this technical reality under any circumstances. You know, it is death. So if you're faced with death in the reality, it probably, it's although it is not pleasant and fearful, this, what is in front of me, is death anyway. So I don't find that I have much of a choice, but that's disturbing too, because you want to think that there's some sort of choice. Now some people might have a choice. If you don't see the technology as, and you are like a survival thing, because everyone wants to survive. I mean, that's all I've been doing for the last 4 years and 9 months, 10 months now. Oh, I better fold up. Patrick's come in. Sorry. Just come on the bike.